and welcome to part 113 of my report on the McCarrick Report by Patrick Parson. Having finished reading the McCarrick Report, I am left with several questions. This segment will cover the Vatican Report's implication that whistleblower Archbishop Carlo Maria Viganò, who is mentioned 306 times in the report, is a primary culprit rather than a hero in the McCarrick story. The report indicates, because of Viganò's lack of action, McCarrick continued to remain active. Now, the Vatican report tells us over 90 witnesses were interviewed during the investigation. What is interesting is that Archbishop Viganò was not one of the individuals interviewed. Now, what is the reason for blaming Viganò, but not verifying what he actually did or did not do? Archbishop Viganò expressed similar questions during a November 12, 2020 interview with Raymond Arroyo of EWTN. Quote, "How can one not think that the repeated attempts at cover-up and denial of their responsibility are the cause of the systematic effort to discredit me as a witness, in order not to bring to light the complicity and connivances that exist between them and McCarrick himself?" Unquote. And when asked to respond to Pope Francis saying Viganò had not informed him of McCarrick's activities or restrictions in 2013, Viganò said the Pope's statement was absolutely false, that in fact Pope Francis was the one who mentioned McCarrick, asking Viganò's opinion of him. Viganò replied by saying McCarrick had corrupted generations of seminarians and priests, and that Pope Benedict ordered him to withdraw to a life of prayer and penance. Additionally, Viganò said, quote, "The Pope did not make the slightest comment about those very grave words of mine, and did not show any expression of surprise on his face, as if he had already known the matter for some time, and he immediately changed the subject. But then, what was the Pope's purpose in asking me that question? What is Cardinal McCarrick like? He clearly wanted to find out if I was an ally of McCarrick or not." Viganò continues to discuss the situation with Mr. Arroyo. Quote, "In the report, I am accused of not having followed up on the request for information regarding the accusations made by Priest 3 against McCarrick. This is absolutely false. It is the writers of the report themselves who provide the evidence of the deception they have concocted in order to crush me and discredit me. The intentions of the one who drafted the report are clear: to pass off responsibility for the promotions of McCarrick to his predecessors, one of whom is deceased and canonized, John Paul II, the other who is old and weak, Benedict XVI." Unquote. Archbishop Viganò also said, quote, The corruption of the highest levels of the Vatican is so evident that it leads one to consider the report as an unworthy attempt to make Bergoglio appear absolutely alien to the manipulations of the Curia. Indeed, as a sort of implacable persecutor of the corrupt, while the evidence of the facts demonstrates the opposite. It was deliberately ignored that what permitted McCarrick's irresistible rise is a system of power also known as the gay lobby, which favors the appointment and career of bishops with certain characteristics. Unquote. Viganò also said, quote, "No, there really is no sign at all that the Church has learned anything from the McCarrick affair. There is rather the sense that one person was made to pay so that others could quietly continue, and in the meantime, advancing the idea that if a priest has homosexual tendencies, it's no problem." Unquote. And a final statement of Viganò, quote, "In this grotesque farce, which is now cloaked in a false semblance of legalism, there is no hesitation to drag the entire Church through the mud. Its prestige before the world, its authority over the faithful, in order to save the now compromised image of corrupt, unworthy, depraved prelates. I limit myself to observing that even now, in the Vatican, Bergoglio still surrounds himself with notorious homosexuals and people with gravely compromised reputations." Unquote. So instead of Archbishop Viganò being at fault for McCarrick's rise, Viganò is suggesting the forces that allowed McCarrick to flourish are still in place within high church hierarchy, hiding themselves and their sins by making scapegoats of innocent people. Who are we to believe? I, for one, have several doubts about the observations of the report itself. Now, our God is a God of truth. If we hope to spend eternity with Him, instead of suffering eternal anguish because of sins that have not been repented, full honesty is necessary. Our personal responsibility to confess every sin that we have committed must be fulfilled for our eternal salvation. We can start by saying the Fatima prayer. O my Jesus, forgive us our sins, save us from the fires of hell, and lead all souls to heaven, especially those in most need of thy mercy.